Welcome to another episode of Positive Solutions for Life. This is Peggy Meyer. Today's guest is Karen Ansen. Karen is a principal lawyer and consultant at Ignite HR and Employment Law, specializing in employment law, industrial relations, and HR strategy. With a career dedicated to supporting aged care and community care providers, Karen blends legal expertise with a deep understanding of workplace culture. She's known for making complex legal matters simple, guiding leaders through challenging issues with practical, people-focused solutions. As the founder of Ignite Your Purpose, she also coaches leaders to align professional success with personal well-being, integrating mindfulness and breathwork into her programs. Karen's insights are both inspiring and actionable, making her a sought-after podcast guest. So I'm so excited to have you on here. So welcome to the podcast, Karen.
Thank you. That bio sounds amazing. I must have written that, did I?
Hey, it's all about you. We're highlighting you today. And yes, you know what? It sounds so amazing when somebody else
Yeah,
says it to you,
it
doesn't it?
does, doesn't it? Yeah, it really does.
So
I
good.
love it when people say to me, "Oh, I was putting in for a job. It was like a fixed term contract, and um, someone it was a recruiter, and I know they can sometimes kind of romance you a bit."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh my God, your CV is so impressive," and I thought, "Oh." Because I just get out of bed every day and just do my best and then go home. Like
Yes,
it's not,
I know.
you
We don't
know,
know how wonderful
it's
we are some days.
it's so funny, isn't it? Yeah. Look, I really appreciate you, Peggy.
Yes.
We kind of came across your podcast and I just love what you do. And I thought what we do aligns and I thought maybe that we could connect, and
Yes.
your listeners might be able to get something out of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, definitely. Even from across the world, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Karen
Yeah.
is in Australia. So this is just amazing to me. I have other guests that I've had from Australia and across the world, and I'm blessed to be able that they find me out of all of the
Yeah.
podcasts around and are willing to join me in a conversation. And with that, Karen, can you start by just sharing just a little bit more about you, your journey, and how it has led to where you are today?
Sure. So I have always lived in Australia. I was born in a little place called Gympie. Not many people will know that. If you want to look that up, it's in
Yeah.
Queensland. And so I now live in a beautiful place called Clarencetown, and it's north of Newcastle, which is about 2.5 hours north of Sydney. Most people know where Sydney is.
Hmm.
And so my husband and I have been married a long time, and we raised two boys, and now I have three beautiful grandsons. And yeah, we both are self-employed. My husband he's had a great career as well, but his encouragement, when I started out on my own business, for some reason, I didn't really have a lot of confidence. And it was nearly 6 years ago now since I did it. And, I'd done law in my 40s. And, I sort of always wanted to be somebody. I'm not sure what that meant or where I was going, but being somebody was important to me. I'd always done government jobs and, raised my children, and my husband had a busy job. So I did most of that sort of stuff. But when I had the opportunity to go to university, it unlocked so much for me. It
Yeah.
was incredible in terms of the journey that started, and just the education piece and understanding myself and being able to, I guess, put myself out there more and
Mhm.
be confident to do so with the skills that I had. But the beauty about, I guess, doing law as you're older is that you've got that life experience, and you're able to bring all of those things to the table
Mhm. Mhm.
in terms of all of the things that I do, because I do employment law and HR. So it's really, really important to bring all that stuff when you're working with your clients and be able to have a deep understanding of them as a human being, but also of myself, the confidence in myself, the boundaries, being able to speak up when I need to. Yeah, and that kind of genuine confidence comes from um, learning about yourself and understanding others and being able to, yeah, to kind of, I guess, quieten. And I know you talk about this a lot, quieten the mind.
Mhm.
And that process for me really started with breath work, because I'd never been able to meditate.
Oh.
And I found that the breath work, concentrating on my breath and the flow of my breath, it quietened my mind, and it also puts you into the sympathetic nervous system.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
your parasympathetic nervous system is not, in overdrive. And that the types of breath work that I have done are able to instantly. So every single day in the morning, I practice.
Yeah.
And yeah, that sets me up for the day. I do the positive affirmations and off
Hmm.
I go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of us don't understand how important our breath is,
Yeah,
in regulating our system, whether it can heighten us
true.
and like make us really, more agitated or more tense, or can really kind of like, whew, close, slow us down a little bit so that we can just take in what's going on, quiet the mind, quiet the system. Can you
Mm.
give an example of like you say you do something every morning, can
Mm.
you give an example of what that looks like to the listeners? I
Yeah.
know they like visually can't see it, but like tell about
Oh
it.
yeah. No, so I had a coach, a shout out to Trey when we do this podcast, I'll tag him in, he'll love it.
Yep.
So I met this, it was interesting. So the Gold Coast in Australia is quite an interesting place. It's I mean, maybe it's the Miami of Australia. I don't know how to describe it any other way,
Yeah.
but it's got, the tall buildings and the beach, and it's very glitzy and glam. But it also has a really interesting culture that
Mhm.
where there's a lot of alternative people that live there. So I met a group through Trey Williams, who's a Himalayan breath coach, and I did level 1 and level 2 breath work, which is trauma informed. And I have to say, it was like transformational is not the word, honestly.
Okay.
It was life changing. There's no question about it. And I guess, I mean, he has a theory that we hold a lot of the stress of the past in our bodies, and we're
Mhm.
able to release things through all sorts of different ways. But
Mhm.
yeah, I went on a journey with him. I was coached with him for a couple of years. And um, so he has a practice which literally goes for less than 15 minutes in the morning, and it's just being able to nose breathe early
Mhm.
in the morning, just very, very lightly nose breathe. So drop into yourself with your mind going a million miles an hour with everything you've got to do today. You drop in and you start to nose breathe. And then he does a mouth breathing,
Mhm.
30 mouth breathes, and then a breath hold. And the breath hold it's amazing when you hold your breath for as long as you possibly can, and then you just let it go. Tony Robbins does some similar stuff.
Mhm.
So if anybody's sort of not sure about it, Tony
Mhm.
Robbins does a lot of that kind of stuff
Mhm.
as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And so yeah, in the morning I generally set an intention for the day, and there's some gratitude practice that I do every day. And Tony Robbins does this amazing thing that I love where he brings light through his head and
Oh,
down to the middle of the earth and then back up again. And then he says to you, you got to send love out to
mhm.
all of the people in your life and all the people you don't know yet and all the people you're going to love and all that. I
Yeah.
love that's one of my favorites. I do
Yeah.
that. My husband thinks I'm a nut, but I love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just talking about it and just seeing it, like, it's like, it just puts you in a totally different, mood,
Oh,
in a different
totally.
kind of, and that's kind of what you want to do when you want to start the day. You want to be in a good mood. I mean, everybody wants to be in a good mood when they start the day, but not,
Well,
but it has to do with our thoughts and our intention and how
absolutely.
we prep ourselves, correct?
And see, our brain is always, as you said in I've listened to your podcast. There's an interesting one that you did on the brain and how to quieten the mind and how not control your thoughts, but to understand what they are and why the amygdala is so important.
Hmm.
And one of the things that Trey taught me was that if you just say to yourself, "I love how everything always works out for me.
Hmm.
I love it. I love that. It always works out for me." And even when at times when things are difficult,
Hmm.
it is working out for you because it's challenging you. It's
Hmm.
leveling you up. The next thing you've got to deal with. And so, yeah, what I was saying was that I noticed consciously, I started to notice my moods, and I have an extreme personality. There's no question about it. I'm a extreme extrovert, but what I found was that there were high highs and low lows. And um, it was like I would fall into this kind of pit and I couldn't see anything positive. It was really quite a debilitating place. And I noticed that they were getting longer and longer, these periods of time.
Yeah.
And I kind of started searching for something. And, it actually happened when my kids left home. And I was really conscious that my role in life was changing, that
Hmm.
that I was all of a sudden on my own. I
Hmm.
didn't have anyone to care for, and it was just me, and my husband was home, obviously, but he's fine, he's at work, he's doing whatever. And so it was one of those really big moments of change for me. And So I started looking for some alternative methods
Hmm.
to actually consciously find out what it was. And it was funny, I met it was actually I think she's a counselor. I think she's a social worker or a counselor. She was actually put on our team when I was working in my last job. And when something would go wrong, I would give myself 24 hours to just sit in it and mull in it and
Yeah.
be, all the terrible thoughts and all the worst outcomes and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And she said, "Why do you need to spend 24 hours doing that? Why can't you do it for 10 minutes?" Like, why put yourself through that for 24 hours?
You and
And it
everyone else,
seems,
you know?
I know, but it seems so common sense to me. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And it's really about loving yourself enough and nurturing what's inside of yourself just to make it a nice place to live, right? Because you
Right.
hear all the time,
Yeah.
make it a nice place. You don't need to put yourself through all that stuff all the time.
No,
No.
no.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, but how many times, I mean, we laugh about it, but how many times do we do that? How many times do we stay stuck in mulling over something over and over? And you mean you gave yourself 24 hours. I guarantee that there's a lot of times where I'll go 2 or 3 days mulling this thing
Yeah.
over. And then I wake up and I'm like, why? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
I just made myself miserable for 2 or 3 days.
That's right.
Everybody else around me, I didn't want to
Yeah.
be around myself. Nobody wanted to be around me. That wasn't the goal. Like,
No.
I want connection with other people. So it's okay. Shorten the time frame that you're mulling
Yeah.
around things, right? And
Yes,
feel
that's
better
right. Yeah.
faster. Like give
Yeah.
yourself 5, 10 minutes, 15
And
minutes at the tops.
and
And
the other thing that as much as you don't always want to when you feel is stuck in when you've got a problem with
mhm,
something, take a step. It doesn't matter what it is,
yeah.
and just take a step. Decide, okay, I'm going to take one step towards
Mhm,
whatever it is. I remember my son had a really bad breakup, and I was so blessed that he chose to kind of, at the time, just he moved. He lives 3 or 4 hours away from here,
mhm,
and he just dropped everything and came home to us. And it was such a blessing because I remember when I'd been through breakups, in my 20s or whatever, there's no way I would have shared any of that stuff with my parents. It wasn't
yeah.
like, I mean, it was, you just wanted to appear, I guess, people my age, as if everything was okay.
Mhm,
I'm fine, I'm coping.
yeah.
But it was so beautiful. And I remember saying to him when he went home, because he had to, the physical moving out, because they were living together, they've been
Right.
engaged for 10 years, moving out. And I just kept saying to him, and I don't know how or why, and no one had ever taught me this, but I just said to him, just take one step, just one step today.
Mhm,
Pack a bag or empty a
yeah.
closet. Just do
Yeah.
that today. If
Yeah.
that's all you can do, that's all you need to do, because
Mhm,
when you're in overwhelm and things happen to you, especially big life-changing events,
mhm,
just one positive step, and then you take another step, and then you're able to take another step and then
right.
find a way out somehow.
Right.
And one day you realize, oh wow, actually I'm okay now.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Yeah. And the hardest part sometimes is choosing to decide what to do. But
Yeah.
it's just whatever that first
Even if
step is that you
it's
think of.
something simple.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, something simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Well,
tells your brain you're going to be okay.
you were talked about earlier, like, you went to law school, later in
Mm,
life, how did, like, I wanted to like intertwine that with like, how did you know you wanted to do that? Like, what, I mean,
yeah.
you wanted to be somebody. So
Yeah. Yeah.
did that fulfill a purpose? I know you founded Ignite Your Purpose. So I was like, I'm trying to
Mm,
like, ooh, what is that? How did you find that?
yeah. So it was interesting because I always did a job because,
Mhm.
and when I left school, my mum said, bless her, that you're not probably overly intellectual. You probably need to go and do something practical. So I studied secretarial studies, and I was the worst secretary on the planet because I'm the least organized person on the planet. But every step you take always takes you where you've got to go.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, I worked in the government for very long because Canberra, I actually grew up in Canberra, which is our capital, and there's lots and lots of government agencies. So when you leave school, most people go to the government when they work there. They live there. Anyway, so I worked there for a very long time actually, through different departments. And
Mhm.
anyway, I always worked just in clerical roles. And I remember thinking to myself, when I don't have to get the mail anymore, I've made it. I've made it in life when I don't have to get the mail. It was so funny. Anyway, I kind of skipped around to
Yeah.
different departments, and I ended up in industrial relations. knew nothing about it at all. And it was kind of one of those things where I was really, because I'm really good with people.
Mhm.
I met this person, and he was a conciliator. And it was our Fair Work Commission does most of our employment law, all of our employment law regulations and rules, and they're the arbitrator. So if you have a matter, you've got to get Fair Work Commission. Anyway, I met this, and I said, "How do I do a job like yours? I'd love to do that." And he goes, "Oh, you just need a law degree." And I'm thinking, okay, never thought about that before. So I started, and the boss I had at the time said I was the worst time manager he's ever met. And and I told this story to, I remember, to someone else one time on a podcast, and they're just like, "Oh my God, really?" But it was one of those moments where he said, "You need to go and do a time management course." And that's what sparked everything.
Mhm.
Because when I realized that you didn't just have to bump around from thing to thing and just let life kind of push you around, that
Mhm.
you had the opportunity to plan, that you could do 3 month, 6 month, 12-month plans, that you could put down how your life could fit with doing a law degree when you're raising a family. When I realized that I could do all of that, it absolutely changed my life. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
And no one had ever talked to me about that,
Mhm.
you know? And so that's how it started. And then I enrolled, actually couldn't even enroll in law because stupidly, the day of my HSC in the high school certificate in Australia, my girlfriends and I took the day off on the day when the regulation scores were on because we thought we had something more interesting to do. So even though I had all the scores to get into uni, I didn't do the final test, which let me to get in. So I had to go back and do a 12-month course prior to the
Oh my gosh.
university, and then the 9-year law degree. I know,
Oh
I know.
wow.
And it
Dedication.
was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh God, it was. But the thing was, I remember standing because the Sydney Law School was where I started, and um, they had an entire, like, I've never seen anything like it. This massive hall full of people
Yeah.
starting their law degree, all different nationalities, all different ages, all different backgrounds, and they said, "Okay, we want everyone to stand up." So everyone stood up, and then he said, "I want half of you to sit down." So half of them sat down. "I want the back quarter to sit down." Back quarter, sit down. "I want the front quarter. I want half of you to sit down. Other half sit down." He said, "That's how many people will pass this course." And I went,
Holy.
"Oh my God." Anyway, it was next level. It was next level. But it was a bit like that whole step thing. One
Yeah.
more step.
Yeah.
Every time I'd get one more. But I did 3 semesters. So I used to
Mhm.
do summer as well. I used to do the
Mhm.
summer school.
Mhm.
And my job at the time, they gave me the ability to have study leave. And it was the first time, this is really, I've never told anyone this, I don't think, but it was the first time. Oh God, this is embarrassing. I think I was in early 40s, and it was the first time I'd ever driven a car longer than my local area.
Oh.
So I know that sounds bizarre. I'd never, when my kids were little, we used to get on the bus and go to
Yeah.
mum's, which was in Queensland, which was a 9-hour bus trip with two small children.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? But when I just never thought about getting in a car and driving, So I used to have to go to Armidale, which was, from my place at the time, was about a 5 or 6 hour drive. And
Mhm.
it was the first time I'd ever owned a new car. So I bought a new car, so I knew I'd have a good car to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And we have this amazing drive up to, and it's like all these beautiful forests, and you look out over it, it's stunning. Anyway, I used to get in it was a little Suzuki, and drive up to Armidale, and I booked myself into a motel. It's the first time I've ever been in a motel room on my own
You
for
got
the
to do it
week and go to
sometime,
university
right?
on site. Oh my God. It was life changing.
Yes. Yes. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
you go, I mean, Peggy, you go from being a daughter in a family, and then I got married fairly young, so I became a wife, in
Yeah.
my 20s, and I'd never really been independent. I'd never had
Mhm.
that moment where I've gone, you know what, who am I? What are
Yeah.
you here to
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
And I became a mum not long after in my early 20s, and then, you know, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden I was at uni and loving life and meeting so many different people and learning
Mhm.
about everything. And that was kind of what sparked it, was that time management course, which was hilarious when you think about it. And
Right.
that's how it all started. And yeah, Yeah, so I didn't get to
Yeah.
the ignite your purpose stuff yet, but
Well,
yeah.
and that, I mean, that's the journey. I mean, so
Yeah,
you can just like tell people is like, hey, I really had no idea. But for many years of our lives, we might not have an idea of what we want to do, but now you're helping people, discover and
that's right.
like, find that light and that fire within them. So can you tell a
Yeah.
little bit more about that? But first, I want to make sure that I understand how you define purpose. Like I always like to
Mhm.
ask, is like, okay, what do you mean by that?
Mm.
Because I might have a different way I think of it. So how do you
Yeah.
define purpose and or like
Well,
how does it mean to you? And
we yeah, well, we started out sort of before we came on here about it's not some kind of magical, mythical
yeah,
thing that you all of a sudden one day work up, oh, this is what I'm here to do.
yeah,
It
yeah.
it comes with time, right? And it's understanding self,
Hmm.
understanding what it is that you love about your life, your work, your
Hmm.
purpose in terms of what it is that you're here to speak about, what it is you're here to learn, what it is you're here to show and serve.
Hmm.
That's what it
Hmm.
is. I think all of us have a very special and unique take on the world. And if you're able to unpack that for yourself
Hmm.
and share those stories with people, that's really powerful because every time you meet somebody that has really is really clear on who they are, what it is they're here to do, and what their message is to the world, it's funny because as a kid, I remember thinking I was always saying to dad, because my dad we had a challenging relationship. And I remember saying to him all the time as a kid, that's not fair. And I had this sense of purpose and justice in terms of everything had to be right. And everything that he did, I was kind of saying, well, that wasn't fair. Why did,
Hmm.
and I was always challenging him all the time.
Hmm.
So I had this underlying thing about justice, about what's right and what's wrong,
Hmm.
and that kind of thing. And I guess that helped me come into the law in terms of understanding what the right way or what the wrong way is. I guess you can only, but there's no really right and wrong. But
Hmm.
if you're able to argue both sides, right, you
Hmm. Yep.
understand
Yep.
those arguments. So that's how I kind of came into that understanding about why law for me.
Hmm.
But then the branch was when I realized that even though I did that law degree and was stepping through it for 9 years and raising a family and doing all the things, when I finished law, nobody wanted to employ me.
Hmm.
It was like crickets. I thought, here I am, this bright, shiny, beautiful, big,
Yeah.
fancy, expensive law degree, and nobody wanted to employ me. And so I, and I remember the day, it was 11th of the 11th, 2011. And um, I had a moment in life where I just went, oh my God, I'm unemployable. I don't want to go back to do what I used to do because I hated it. So what do I do now? And so it was a blessing in some ways because what it did was really, instead of if I'd been taken up by some massive law firm, and
Hmm.
had this, I would have had a very different experience.
Yeah.
So I really had to work out what I wanted to do and
Hmm.
what it was that I was going to put out there to the world. So it was interesting. The first job that I got was finally in the March, or yeah, in the March I started in Sydney. It was, and I had to travel from the Central Coast. So it was an hour and a half each way. It was a lot of travel, and I went into aged care. It was what they call an employer association, which is
Hmm.
a peak body. And it was funny because Emma, who was my manager, she said, oh, aged care is a growing industry. You'll always have a job. And they enticed me in there, and it wasn't great money, but it was an opportunity to learn an
Hmm.
industry that's absolutely, I mean, in
Yeah.
Australia, our aged care population, and I don't know if yours is the same, is about to, in 5 years' time, double
Mm.
the need for beds in
Yep.
Australia. So we've
Yep.
got, the
Yeah.
boomers all coming in
Yep.
5 years. So it's like, yeah, it's a
Hmm.
lot. But anyway, that's an industry that I work in, and I love it because where else can you work as a lawyer where they want to hug you and feed you? Like they're
Yeah.
just the most heart-led, amazing people that
Hmm.
I've ever met.
Hmm.
But what I realized was that there was more to the people. They come in there with this amazing kind of capacity
Yeah.
to give and to love. But the problem is those people are the ones that suffer the most in terms of when they're dealing with teams, when they're dealing with individuals, with people, they lose
Mhm.
themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the only way I can describe it. When I deal
Mhm.
with a lot of leaders, they are operating in a really difficult space because they've got so many competing things that they need to meet.
Mhm.
But their biggest noise is their people problems, right? It's constant, it doesn't stop all day.
Yeah.
And they find themselves overwhelmed. And
Mhm.
so the programs that I've been running, it was interesting because for years I've been talking about compliance and law um but it was at the last aged care conference they asked me to speak about igniting purpose in aged care leadership.
Mhm.
And so I went along and we did a breathwork session and I talked to them about stress response and operating in those systems, where you're in fight and flight all the time, and how to pare that back and to drop in and to understand how your body's working and why you're reacting the way that you're
Mhm.
reacting, and to really get focused on what it is that you need and what you want. And that authentic piece comes in when you pare away all of the bits, the
Mhm.
masks, the
Yep.
all of the stuff that you're putting on,
Yeah.
because that authentic behavior then encourages that in others.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then the relationships get better. You're able to speak your truth and you're able to speak up when you need to instead of letting everything get on top of you. And I know there'll be people listening to this who haven't consciously thought about it before. They just
Mhm.
go to work and they go from one thing to another and one meeting to another, stressed all day, coffee, you know, and they don't take a moment for themselves just to go, wow, you know what? I'm amazing. I'm actually an amazing human who has
Mhm.
needs and is able to understand and do some practices and do some things that might be able to help them understand their authentic voice, and that they have a purpose, whatever that might be,
Yeah.
whatever that might, not just one thing. I think it's a lot
Mhm.
of things.
Yeah, that
That's
is.
a long answer, but that was my version.
No, but part of that is when we feel like we don't have a purpose, we don't understand ourselves. We're just, like you said earlier, we're just kind of like bouncing and letting life just like, throw us around a little bit. We're not necessarily tuning into ourselves and taking those
That's right. Yeah.
breaths to like,
But
hey,
see,
what
do you
is
know
it
what
that I need?
well, that's exactly right. You ask women in a room when I do these sessions,
Mhm.
they don't even know what they want.
Yeah,
No idea.
yeah.
And that's the thing. Who am I? Who are you? What is it that what it lights you up?
Mhm.
And they always say it's always about someone else.
Mhm.
Oh, I love my family. I love my mum. I love my, this,
Yeah.
that. Okay, yeah, great. But who are you? What do you what do you want? What do you love?
Well, I feel like a lot of times, women, especially in those caring positions, give
Mm,
so much to others that they don't even think
that's
about
right.
themselves.
It's always about other people. And my life was always like that.
Mhm.
I measured my worth because of what I could give to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But I needed to stop and really appreciate
Hmm.
myself and understand myself and know myself so well in any situation.
Yeah.
And I know this is a trigger for people because a lot of people go, well, aren't you arrogant? Like, aren't you, but the thing is, as I said to you, you live inside yourself all
Hmm.
day long,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It might as well be a nice place,
Right.
it might as well be a good place. And you need to know your strengths. And I absolutely know the negative side to myself.
Hmm.
I've done a lot of work and I know when I'm being triggered, people talk about triggered, when
Yeah.
things upset me
Yeah.
or whatever, and I react in a certain way. For years
Hmm.
and years and years, I spent, if someone would do something to me that I didn't like, I would cut them off
Yeah.
completely. And I had no idea why I was doing it. And my husband's here. And anyway, so yeah, I would do that, but I didn't have any idea why I was doing
Yeah.
it. And it comes back to stuff from childhood,
Yeah.
and reactions and things that happen, and realize that um it was a safety mechanism,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
to withdraw before someone gets you, right?
Right. Right.
That's what would happen. And I had no idea why I was doing it. And I know people do it now, and I talk to them about it and I say, oh, how does that make you feel? Oh, I feel at the time I feel really empowered, but then I think, oh, I've just cut off my best friend or a
Hmm.
close friend, and now I miss out on all of that, and
Yeah.
I don't actually know how to repair it. I don't know how to fix it. I
Hmm.
don't know how to express it because
Yeah.
I've gone so far down the road now that we're done. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you start to really unpack some of the things that you do that you're not
Mhm.
conscious of, but you're
Right.
doing them anyway. Mm,
Right, right. And it's a
mm,
lot of time, yeah, it's unconscious. We don't know, but
no,
if we take the time to try to understand ourselves and,
mm,
just get quiet and ask ourselves some questions like, why did I just do that? Or
yeah,
just notice the thoughts that are in your head because you want it to be a nice place to live. But
yeah.
if the what you're telling yourself, would you tell somebody else? Well, you might if you want to cut them off your life, like, but like if you talk to other people the way you talk to yourselves, like how many
Oh,
people
I
would want to be
know.
around you, And so we
Yeah,
have to notice that and then notice how we respond when
yeah.
people, you know, you know, trigger us for another thing,
Do
we
you
respond away. And it's like, wait a minute, is that really, really how I want to do that? And that
do
breath.
you find like that there's a voice in your head that when you think something, for example, when you want to do something, and then that voice comes in and says, "Oh, you couldn't do that. Remember last time it stuffed up or whatever." Do you know what I mean? Do you have that voice too? Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Everyone's
but
got it.
sometimes it's like more like egging me on, like
Oh,
like which one is the
amazing.
which voice do you want to listen to? Like, oh wait, how did it turn out? That
Oh, I
one
wish
didn't
I had
turn
that
out
one.
very good last time, so you may want to think about that one. But it's just the other one is like, let's just go after it. Yeah. So you
I
have to,
love that. I love that.
but it's probably, the one that's really going to egg you on and like, probably you're going to regret it later, and then it's going to be like, I don't know how to fix that. But how do you fix that? You just like, hey, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there,
Yeah,
and just,
yeah,
go after. You can repair relationships. You can repair,
yeah,
broken things. So,
yeah.
like, I don't know.
And the funniest thing too about like conflict is that I mean that's pretty much all I do in my job, right? Is
Mhm.
is work with other lawyers and there's conflict
Yeah.
around all of the
Yeah.
things, right? All the different positions and whatever. But I am a huge believer in healthy conflict. You
Mhm.
have to be able to have
Mhm.
difficult conversations, and
Yeah.
our workplaces are avoiding them,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and
Because
people
they're too
are
difficult
avoiding them
because
in their
people are
personal
scared.
lives. Yeah.
That's right, because they're too scared that
Yeah.
someone's going to get upset. But when you're holding something in and you're not saying what you need to say, the thing is, there's ways to say things which doesn't actually offend the other person.
Right.
So you've got to take the anger out of it. You talk about this in the last podcast that
Mhm.
I listened to, and it was, you know, the the anger piece, when you feel it bubbling up inside you, that's something important. Something really means something
Yeah.
to you, right?
Yeah.
So, find a way to express it without blame to
Hmm.
the other person.
Hmm.
I stopped saying to my husband, "You never take the garbage out. It's rubbish day. I can hear the bin man coming. Can you
Yeah.
hurry?"
Yeah.
Instant argument, instant,
Oh, yeah.
always. For years it went on. You never. And all the accusatory, I decided about 3 or 4 years ago to stop any sentence that I start with my husband
Hmm.
with "you never" or "you always" or "why do you blah, blah, blah." I stopped any of those conversations. I don't say any of that stuff anymore.
Hey.
You ask a question
Yeah.
is a different way to do it, right? You
Right.
ask a question.
Right.
And then I tell you what, I haven't had to ask him to take the rubbish out for a very long time.
Hey, you got to find a different approach, right? If the one's not
That's
working,
correct.
it's like hyping you up. You have to take breath, take, a time to,
Yeah,
do some breath work to calm down. That's not the right approach.
yeah,
So let's get curious,
yeah.
right? Ask some questions. What is
Yes,
really
yes,
going on here? Like, whatever
yes.
questions you want to ask.
Absolutely.
You ask yourself questions. You ask somebody
Yeah,
else
yeah,
questions. Just get curious.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And also give people space.
Yeah.
Go and get in their faces if you can see so they're agitated.
Hmm.
Give them some space. Just say, "Look, I love you. I'm going to give you some space."
Yeah.
And sometimes that annoys them, but you say, "Well, look, I'm just trying to know what it is that I need to do here,
Yeah.
because I really need to have this conversation. But if you don't want to have it, that's fine. We'll
Mhm.
park it till later."
Yeah.
Because the thing is, there's no point going, at bullet a gate at everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes the hindsight and things simmer down a bit,
Yeah.
that kind of, and
Yeah.
that's good. It's also good advice in the workplace as well. But don't avoid difficult
Mhm.
conversations
Yeah.
just because you're scared of it. I am the elephant in the room girl. When
Mm.
I talk about something, when I see something, I say, "Look, can I just check my understanding on something?" And then I say what I need to say. And they
Yeah.
go, "Oh, how did you know that?" They always go, how did you know that?
Sometimes the energy in this room, like there's
Yeah,
something here, and I'm just gonna ask a question. Can I just, say
that's
what I
right.
think?
And people are really grateful that
Mhm.
you've actually spoken about the thing that's probably the biggest, scariest
Yeah,
part of whatever it is.
yeah.
Because I do a lot of performance management, a lot
Mhm.
of terminations, of employment, that kind of stuff. And I always do it in a way that is respectful. Um, but I also meet people where their communication is too.
Mhm.
And if they are coming across, because a lot of people get very, very, very defensive in those
Mhm.
meetings.
Yeah.
And I say, well, look, I said, I can meet you there, no problem. I have no issue going there with this communication,
Mhm.
but that's your choice. We can have an open, honest, amicable conversation, or we can go toe to toe. Oh,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
go. That's what you want to do. Um,
Mhm.
but I think I know you'd rather the other one, and you'd feel more respected with the other one
Yeah.
rather than having this. But
Yeah.
I'm also not frightened of what people have to say either. So a lot of
Mhm.
people, what they do is when they hear something they're going to be uncomfortable, they shut people down and they talk over them.
Mm.
But I always just say, hang on a minute, we haven't finished that part of the conversation yet. Let's finish
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And what it does diffuses a lot of the time for
Mhm.
people, because why do people lodge legal claims? Because they haven't been heard. They haven't
Yeah.
had their rights
Yeah.
respected. They haven't had. So in those meetings, I mean, most of mine settle, prior to going to court a lot of the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
I think I did 150 unfair dismissals the first year that I started in aged care. It was a bloody training ground. But the
Mm.
next year, I got clever. I started to say to my clients, listen, let's start to have exit conversations rather than going to fight it out in court, because
Yeah.
it's a much more stressful process.
Mhm.
It's costly to you.
Yeah.
Let's start to have exit conversations,
Yeah.
that are meaningful, and for the person to be able to have that moment where they said, okay, I feel like I've been wronged, I've had this, I've had that, and see if we can try and resolve it in some way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how it sort of went there. Mm.
Yeah. Awesome. As we move forward here, if people are like, okay, I want to know a little bit more about you, Karen. I want to know about your Ignite Your Purpose, your breath work, any of that. Where can people find you and learn a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I have on my website a free 15-minute consult. Anybody can book in at any time to have a chat with me about any of those programs. So
Mhm.
I mean, I run in-house corporate programs for people on basically getting aligned with your
Mhm.
purpose and
Mhm.
helping leaders unpack that, and teaching them practices that will be able to help them do that, and also to help them with their stress.
Yeah.
So I at the moment I've actually booked in. I'm doing one in the Philippines. Oh my God, I'm so excited. In April next year, yeah, I've been asked to be a co-facilitator in the Philippines with a leadership group. So that'll be so fun.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been to the Philippines. And so that's going to be super fun. And there's still spots on that actually, with that retreat. So
Mhm.
I'll put a link to that as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so if people want, they can talk about legal stuff. I'm happy for people to ring me about, because the skills in terms of what I do, not just in Australia, I can do them anywhere, you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
particularly for the what we call employee relations over here, but it's really just workplace relations.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so if anybody wants to talk to me about that, more than happy for them to book in, have a 15-minute consult. But Ignite Your Purpose, what I did was I actually melded my two websites
Hmm.
together. So
Okay.
on my Ignite HR and Employment Law, I connected both websites so you can see
Okay.
both of the stuff that I'm doing.
Yay.
Yeah,
Hey, that's good. I'll put the links to that in the show notes so it's
that'd
easy
be
to
amazing.
find for people that are looking for that. And
Mm.
so good. I know this has been great. I mean, I feel like we're just like sitting across from each other having coffee
Yeah.
and just like having this wonderful conversation that could go on for a long time. Like we could close the coffee shop down. But I know that we're both busy people and you've got a meeting coming up. So as we wrap up, is there anything that you left said that you want to say or you want to leave the listeners with today?
Oh no, look, I just want to thank everybody who's listened to this today, and just know that, people like Peggy and myself, we're just vessels, I guess, of
Mhm.
people being able to take people. You take the information and implement things into your life. And every step that you take, as I said, is always a way forward.
Yeah.
And love yourself, because in all honesty, you're one of a kind, amazing. Each
Hmm.
one of us are amazing, and have something to give the world. And never forget that when things going, when
Yeah.
things are tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Karen, for joining me today. I know the listeners are going to get a lot, and I'm going to go back and listen to it as well because you gave so many good tips, whether it's breath work, intentions, how you talk to yourself, affirmations, all
Yeah,
these little nuggets that you threw out our conversation today. Listeners, go back and re-listen because we always learn something else and we see it in a different way.
absolutely.
So I really, really appreciate you joining me today. And
Yeah,
thank you again.
you're so welcome.